You already know what an octopus looks like. You've seen it in aquariums, pressed against the glass, in nature documentaries, changing color against coral, maybe in a viral video, escaping a jar, or solving a puzzle box for a treat, while a narrator calls it surprisingly clever. You think you understand them. Soft, squishy, alien, but harmless. A curious invertebrate. Calamari with a personality. That impression is exactly what makes the octopus one of the most underestimated animals on the planet. Because here is what most people are never told. An octopus is not a simple creature operating on basic instinct. It is an animal with 9 separate clusters of neural processing, distributed intelligence running independently through each of its arms, a body it can reshape and recolor in real time, and a documented capacity to escape, deceive, and problem-solve in ways that have made marine biologists fundamentally reconsider what intelligence even requires. It is not a fish. It is not remotely related to anything you'd call a typical animal. It is something closer to an alien mind that happens to live in our oceans. To understand what an octopus actually is, you need to start with a fact that unsettles most biologists before it unsettles anyone else. An octopus does not have one brain controlling its body the way yours does. It has a central brain, located between its eyes, but roughly 2/3 of its total neurons are located not in that central brain, but distributed throughout its 8 arms. Each arm contains a cluster of neurons sophisticated enough to process sensory information, coordinate movement, and in documented laboratory tests, continue functioning with a degree of independent problem-solving even when surgically separated from the central brain. Researchers running these tests found that a severed octopus arm can still respond to stimuli, still attempt to grasp objects, still react in ways that look behaviorally like decision-making, even with no connection left to the brain that supposedly does the deciding. This means an octopus's arm can taste what it touches, using chemoreceptors spread across its suckers. It can sense and react to a threat without waiting for a signal to travel to the brain and back. Researchers studying octopus neurology describe the arms not as limbs in the way we understand limbs, but as semi-autonomous processing centers, each one capable of behaving, in a limited but real sense, like its own small mind. You are not looking at one intelligence when you look at an octopus. You are looking at 9. What that distributed intelligence makes possible is a level of behavioral flexibility that has, on multiple documented occasions, made the octopus the only animal capable of defeating human-engineered containment. In 2016, an octopus named Inky escaped from the National Aquarium of New Zealand. Staff later reconstructed the sequence. Inky left his own tank, traveled across the aquarium floor, located a drain pipe, and used it to reach the ocean. The escape required recognizing an exit route invisible from inside the enclosure, navigating unfamiliar terrain outside of water, and selecting the correct one among multiple pipes leading to the sea. This was not an isolated case. Aquariums around the world have independently documented octopuses escaping tanks at night to raid neighboring enclosures for food, then returning to their own tank before staff arrived in the morning, closing the loop on a crime repeatedly without being caught in the act. An octopus has no skeleton. The only rigid part of its entire body is its beak. This means an octopus can squeeze through any gap larger than that beak, which, for many species, is barely larger than the animal's eye. Researchers have demonstrated this directly. A full-grown octopus, given access to a hole the diameter of a coin, will reliably find and use it, compressing its entire body through a space that, by any visual estimate, should be far too small. There is no meaningful way to cage something that can pour itself through a gap that narrow, and that has, in repeated, independently observed cases, figured out exactly where that gap leads. The camouflage ability is where the octopus moves from impressive into something closer to unsettling. An octopus's skin contains specialized pigment cells called chromatophores, tens of thousands of them, each individually controlled by the nervous system, allowing the animal to change color and pattern across its entire body in a fraction of a second. Combined with specialized muscles that let it alter the texture of its skin, smooth, spiky, ridged, an octopus can transform its appearance to match coral, sand, or rock so precisely that researchers have, on camera, lost track of an octopus they were actively filming. Here is the detail that should genuinely stop you. Octopuses are colorblind. Their eyes cannot perceive the colors they are reproducing on their own skin with such precision. Researchers still don't fully agree on how an animal that cannot see color manages to color match its surroundings so exactly. Leading hypotheses suggest the skin itself may contain light-sensitive proteins, allowing the octopus to see color directly through its body, independent of its eyes entirely. This is an animal potentially perceiving its environment through its own skin, while its eyes process something else entirely. Two separate sensory systems, operating in the same body, neither one fully understood by the people studying it. The deception goes beyond simply blending in. Researchers studying octopus behavior have documented what can only be described as strategic mimicry. The mimic octopus, found in the waters of Southeast Asia, has been observed reshaping its body and altering its movement to imitate venomous sea snakes, lionfish, and other animals that predators actively avoid, selecting which dangerous animal to imitate based on which specific predator is nearby at the time. This requires something more sophisticated than camouflage. It requires the octopus to assess a threat, select an appropriate deterrent from a mental catalog of dangerous animals, and execute a full-body impression convincing enough to fool a predator that has presumably encountered the real thing before and learned to avoid it. In laboratory settings, octopuses have been documented appearing to behave differently around human observers depending on whether they believed they were being watched. In some recorded cases, delaying an escape attempt or a reach toward a researcher's hand until the researcher's attention shifted elsewhere. Whether this constitutes genuine theory of mind, an understanding that another creature has a separate perspective that can be tracked and manipulated, remains a subject of active scientific debate. But the behavior itself has been recorded repeatedly by multiple independent research teams across different facilities. The problem-solving extends well beyond escape attempts into structured, repeatable cognitive tasks. In controlled experiments, octopuses have learned to navigate mazes, unscrew jar lids from the inside to access food, and in some documented cases, observed another octopus solving a task once and subsequently solved the same task themselves on the first attempt. A form of social learning long assumed to require the kind of complex social structure octopuses, as largely solitary animals, were not thought to need. They have also demonstrated the ability to recognize individual human faces and distinguish between specific researchers, reportedly squirting water preferentially at staff members who had previously handled them roughly, while treating staff who hadn't with no such hostility. Aquarium staff across multiple facilities have independently reported the same pattern. Individual octopuses that appeared to develop distinct, lasting reactions to specific people, not to humans in general. This is short-term memory, individual recognition, and what looks very much like a grudge, running through a nervous system that branched off from our own evolutionary path roughly 500 million years ago, before anything resembling a vertebrate brain existed. Then there is the venom, present in every single octopus species without exception, and in at least one case, capable of killing a fully grown human being with no anti-venom in existence. The blue-ringed octopus, found across the Indo-Pacific, often no larger than a golf ball, carries tetrodotoxin, one of the most potent neurotoxins found in nature. A single bite, sometimes painless enough that the victim does not realize they've been bitten, can deliver enough toxin to cause full-body paralysis within minutes. The toxin shuts down the nervous system's ability to send signals to muscles, including the diaphragm. Victims have been documented remaining fully conscious throughout the paralysis, aware, but completely unable to move or breathe, while bystanders performed manual resuscitation for hours because no anti-venom exists. The toxin must simply run its course while the body is kept alive by force, breath by breath, until the paralysis fades on its own. It is one of the smallest, most harmless-looking animals in the ocean. It is also one of the only animals on Earth that can kill an adult human with a bite most people wouldn't even feel happen. There are over 300 documented octopus species, ranging from the blue-ringed octopus small enough to sit in your palm, to the giant Pacific octopus, which can reach arm spans exceeding 4 meters. Most species live solitary lives, and most live remarkably short ones. Many species reach maturity, reproduce, and die within a single year or two. This means every documented case of octopus intelligence, every escape, Every act of apparent deception, every learned behavior, is accomplished by an animal that doesn't have the luxury of a long life to figure things out. It develops that intelligence fast, uses it immediately, and is gone almost as quickly as it arrived, which makes the sophistication of what it manages to learn in that compressed span of time considerably harder to explain. Here is what is true, and what the research actually supports. The octopus is not malicious. It has no concept of cruelty, no capacity for the kind of premeditated harm we'd associate with intent in the way humans understand it. It is simply an animal built from a different evolutionary blueprint than almost everything else you've ever considered intelligent. A creature with its thinking distributed across its own limbs, capable of reshaping its body and its color in real time, capable of escaping enclosures engineered by people with advanced degrees and in at least one documented form, capable of ending a human life with a bite too small to notice. It evolved this way independently of every vertebrate on Earth, on a completely separate branch of the evolutionary tree, arriving at sophisticated problem-solving through a nervous system that doesn't resemble ours in any meaningful structural sense. We did not teach it intelligence. We are still trying to understand the kind it already has. Respect the tank glass. Respect the gap it can fit through. Respect the 9 minds working at once, somewhere behind those unreadable alien eyes. It has been quietly outthinking us, since long before we built the aquarium to watch it in.